The Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. The 72 returned with joy, saying, Lord, in your name even the demons submit to us. He said to them, I watched Satan fall from heaven like a flash of lightning. Indeed, I have given you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing will hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice at this, that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Why celebrate Michael and all angels? Because it falls on a Sunday this year and the lectionary says so? Because it gives us another excuse to highlight the music of the brilliantly talented John Williams in the dragon-adjacent Jurassic Park franchise? Or maybe because angels are so popular and friendly and easy to understand and not at all terrifying, such that nearly every interaction with them in the Bible begins with the encouragement to not be afraid. Take a look at the description of angels in Ezekiel sometime. It's certainly not because of the readings assigned to this day enough to make any preacher want to run, not walk, to the nearest exit. There's Daniel's terrifying and confusing visions in an equally terrifying and confusing time of exile and oppression. Or perhaps Revelation, the equally confusing and often misinterpreted apocalyptic New Testament counterpart to Daniel, which tells, among other things, of a great war in heaven. Or maybe more perplexing still, Jesus' brief but puzzling words about snakes and scorpions and Satan in the middle of Luke's gospel. Each reading, rich and complex enough on its own, could be the sole focus of a single sermon or Bible study, and even then, we'd probably need all day or maybe even multiple days to fully unpack and digest their meaning. Why celebrate Michael and all angels? Maybe we can take our cue from the Waldorf schools, a non-religiously affiliated network of schools that celebrates the story of Michaelmas, Michael's Mass, annually, often with an all-school play retelling the story, among other activities. One teacher at the Rudolf Steiner School in New York City explains its significance in her context. Michaelmas is a festival of community, she says. Michael is an archangel mentioned in many traditions. As we know, he is depicted as a valiant and noble conqueror of the dragon, that evil being whose forces threaten to overwhelm humanity. Just at this poignant time of year when summer's lease is over, we have the Michaelmas festival in September. The image of Michael is one of hope and courage that helps us remember that when we unite together, we can overcome things that we cannot possibly do on our own. Often called the Festival of Courage in the Waldorf school tradition, Michaelmas also can deepen our connection to the natural world, falling as it does in such close proximity to the autumnal equinox. As days grow shorter and temperatures become cooler, Michaelmas calls us to summon the particular courage to prepare for the darker, colder months ahead, resolving to carry summer's warmth with us. On the whole, as the Waldorf tradition teaches, Michaelmas reminds us we all face difficulties in life, both internal and external, and somehow we must find the courage and strength to prevail. As human beings, we know our difficulties, both internal and external, all too well. As people of faith, we also know that we never have to face those difficulties alone. Enter the story of Michael, the saint and archangel from whom this day takes its name. Michael is one of only two angels, together with Gabriel, to be named in the Bible, and he appears by name only 3 times, perhaps most prominently in this scene of cosmic war of which John of Patmos writes in Revelation, this epic battle between good and evil that plays out in heaven. In that story in Revelation, Michael and his angels lead the charge against the dragon, the ancient serpent, the one who is called Satan, the adversary and the deceiver. Now, it's difficult, if not impossible, to do justice to the book of Revelation, a book so often misinterpreted, in just one sermon, but here it goes. First things first, Revelation is apocalyptic literature, a particular genre and kind of writing that reveals something hidden, often speaking in metaphors that would have been obvious to its intended original audience, but otherwise intentionally coded, lest it fall into the wrong hands. Apocalyptic literature like Revelation often dramatized real-life circumstances in mythic or fairy tale-like stories in order to reveal its point. In the Bible, such writings were meant to give hope to the early Christian community in the midst of persecution by a brutally oppressive regime, when their world was collapsing around them, when life as they knew it was falling apart. Apocalyptic literature like Revelation testified then to God's ultimate victory over evil. No matter how bleak things would get, God and God's people would triumph still. And so in Revelation, Michael and his angels defeat the dragon, a metaphorical stand-in for the oppressive empire of Rome and for all the forces that are opposed to God's reign of justice and peace. But this is only the beginning of Revelation's climax. In the chapters to come, the battle continues on earth, but with a renewed sense of incredible hope. Because this dragon has already been defeated in the heavenly war, it is already losing the earthly war. Though hordes of devils fill the land, Luther writes, we tremble not, unmoved we stand. They cannot overpower us. Why celebrate Michael and all angels? Because in the midst of life's difficulties, whether violence and division that plague our nation and our world, or those struggles closer to home, around and within us, this story emphatically and decisively reminds us that those difficulties do not, cannot, and will not get the final word. To quote the English fantasy writer Neil Gaiman, who was probably paraphrasing G.K. Chesterton, fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. This is the message of Michaelmas and the core of our hope as the people of God. Dragons can be beaten. Michael defeats the dragon, and a loud voice in heaven proclaims the victory song, echoing our Easter proclamation. Here is the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God. We have conquered by the blood of the Lamb. The Lamb who was slain has begun his reign. This is the feast of victory. Why celebrate Michael and all angels? Because Michael and all angels reminds us of the victory of our God, a victory that gives us hope and courage for whatever lies ahead.